every aspect of our work has to be focused on conversion. So, even as we're doing, road mapping, a digital strategy, right? What elements do we want to focus within that digital strategy? And sometimes, the website on desktop can be different from web sites on mobile. So there's a different strategy on mobile. So that's one element at the inception of a client relationship where we focus on that strategy piece. Once that strategy is formulated, right, we talk about design, we talk about the UI UX experience, architecting something that looks really magical, that looks really compelling with a view on conversion. Again, right, how do we make this, website look like it's going to generate maximum impact?
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by Write For Me, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Timmon from Write For Me, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast, where we meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about Unleashed Technologies with Mohammed Butasahut, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Unleashed Technologies. Mohammed, thank you so much for joining us today and being here.
Good to be here. Thank you. I really appreciate the time to spend with you.
Absolutely. So Unleashed Technologies, Unleashed, you guys have been around since 2007 in the technology as a service space. And I'm really excited to dive in what's going on at Unleashed. But before we jump into your organization, the Business Ninjas community is built of entrepreneurs, executives like yourself, a lot of sales and marketing leaders as well. As a graduate of Dartmouth, Duke, Harvard Business School, you became a CEO there at Unleashed 3 years ago. So I'd love it if you can kind of tell the Business Ninjas community a little bit about yourself, your background, and maybe some of the things you're focused on as CEO.
Yeah, a lot of questions, a lot to share as well. I don't actually come from a traditional business background. I started after college, on Capitol Hill, and then joined the State Department as a diplomat. So very much not a business guy, and realized quickly, working in the federal government that, the federal bureaucracy was just not my thing, and decided to make a real kind of step change, in my career, and decided to go to business school. And it was in business school. I mean, I had some inklings actually of entrepreneurship, even before business school, as I managed some teams in some pretty dicey environments for the State Department, in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. So I loved the whole managing small teams, and growing them and, making them effective. But I felt like there was a ceiling there, right, in terms of being able to be more entrepreneurial with that. And so ventured into business school and discovered entrepreneurship in the business setting and fell in love with it, really. And but I recognized that I didn't have much business experience to begin with. So really, after business school, jumped into investment banking for a couple of years, then management consulting, sort of in a way, kind of, just honing, cultivating my business skills, basic core business skills. And I felt ready after a few years to jump in and basically raise some capital from some investors, and was able to acquire Unleashed Technologies in 2019 and have been running that business ever since.
Very cool. Super interesting, yeah, to go from the most regulated type of industry you can be in, probably poli-sci major, maybe something along those lines.
Yeah, history major, but deep into, I took some poli-sci classes, very much, focused on sort of those areas, but I quickly realized, I think my talents were elsewhere. And, I think, but it took me, it was quite a long time, right? Almost, 10 plus years to get to that place, to be an entrepreneur. And so, but I'm glad I'm here and glad I'm speaking with you and speaking to the community of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And Unleashed Technologies, it's been around for about 7 years. You've been there for 3 years. So tell me a little bit about why Unleashed? Why did you come to this organization?
Well, so actually Unleashed harks back to 2007, interestingly enough. So it's been around for quite a while. It was founded by two folks, Scott Greenwell, Mike Spinoza, really wonderful guys. They were just, bootstrap type folks. And they were very interested in, building websites, basically. They were effectively emerging right at the same time that a certain open source technology platform for website building called Drupal was emerging, particularly in the DC area with federal agencies. They took full advantage of that, grew the business, for about 12 years. And that's where I stepped in. I have actually done in my consulting days after business school, done some ERP, enterprise resource planning implementation projects. So I was familiar with IT, particularly website integration with these ERP platforms, and loved the business. Was able to convince some investors, hey, I've got this ERP background. The website business also had a lot of integration with ERP platforms. So it was just a natural connection with those guys, a natural connection with the business model. I was familiar with some of the product, the offerings. We decided to execute, close the deal, and I've been running the business since.
Love it. Well, it sounds like you're a little bit on the shark side of things when you think about Shark Tank. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to put you on the other side of the board here. And I know you've probably imagined yourself pitching an idea. I know I have on the Shark Tank. So I'd love it if you can kind of give me Unleash Technology's elevator pitch. Like, what problems does Unleash Technology solve?
Yeah, I mean, the problems that we solve are strategic in nature for our clients. Whether it's increasing membership for nonprofit organizations based in the DC area that are national in nature, or generating more revenue out of the website. These are strategic goals aligned with their overall KPIs. We know after the pandemic, right, that a lot of revenue, a lot of activity is being generated from websites. Yeah. They're not, non-core, kind of side pieces to a business. They're central. We recognize that. We provide that strategic advice. That strategic advice then transforms itself into development work that we do, design work that we do, and even some hosting work as well, where we host the websites with our cloud partners. So that's really our focus, being digital strategy consultants and really supporting the execution of that, with their strategy overall.
Yeah, I definitely agree that generating revenue from the website is going to be key. Like, a website isn't a brochure anymore. It has to be this live, living organism almost that evolves with the market. It has to be able to, the biggest thing in my perspective, because my background's in outbound B2B lead generation, conversational sales and marketing, it's actually conversion. It should be a conversion tool to how do you get the people who are visiting your website as quickly as possible in the conversations, about how to become a partner with you, and making that really easy for your customers to do. And a website is obviously the first place they're going to go to when they're researching things that have to do with your business. And you want to be the thing that shows up as an expert on Google for what they might be researching, right? So what are some of the things that people are researching when they come to your website? You mentioned cloud hosting. I know we talked a little bit about, maybe even digital transformation, doing design work. So what are people looking for when they're coming to the company?
Just to echo your point about conversion, right? Every aspect of our work has to be focused on conversion. So, even as we're doing, road mapping, a digital strategy, right? What elements do we want to focus within that digital strategy? And sometimes, the website on desktop can be different from web sites on mobile. So there's a different strategy on mobile. So that's one element at the inception of a client relationship where we focus on that strategy piece. Once that strategy is formulated, right, we talk about design. We talk about the UI UX experience, architecting something that looks really magical, that looks really compelling with a view on conversion. Again, right, how do we make this, website look like it's going to generate maximum impact, right, with a particular viewer, right, of that website. And then, of course, the development piece. The development piece has to be, conceived with the context of, how is it easy, easy not only for the easy, easy to view the website, but also internally, for non-technical staff within a company or an organization, how easy is it for them to update content, right, on the website? Not rely on us, necessarily, right, the coders to do that, right? Provide more power, empower really a client to be able to do that. And then from there, obviously there's the DevOps element, which is sort of the merger between development and hosting, maximizing the speed. So the experience on the website, it's got to be, much faster. 10 years ago, people were able to tolerate maybe like 2 or 3 seconds, in some cases. But now it's like a nanosecond, like it's got to be instant. So it's all these elements, on the digital and development side, coming together really with a view of conversion, making the experience seamless, making the experience instant and making the experience impactful to the website.
So I'd probably have an idea of who your ideal customer might be, but I don't want to like pigeonhole myself here. So I'd love to understand like what is the vertical that you guys tend to focus on partnering up with the most, or the types of verticals you guys work with, maybe the top three.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, from a I would say legacy standpoint, because we are based in the DC area, associations is still no longer a majority of our business, but certainly a plurality of our business. And again, that's just by virtue of proximity. We continue to work with partnerships. Many of our new clients are associations. Many of our new clients are associations as well, national associations, I might add. So they're not small. But increasingly, we've really penetrated two additional spaces, the healthcare space. We have quite a few folks in-house internally that have expertise in dealing with healthcare. In the Drupal open source platform, which is this content management system that we specialize in, healthcare is an increasingly rapidly growing industry vertical of that open source platform. And so we're really deep diving into that. We have several partnerships with some nationally recognized cloud hosting partners to focus in that space. So healthcare is a key area. Manufacturing, we have a number of clients in the manufacturing space. We're very excited about manufacturing. With all the changes happening around the world in supply chain, inshoring, right, from abroad to back into the U.S. A lot of clients the manufacturing ones that we have are really interested in moving away from, operating with, sending, having their distributors send like orders through fax machines and entering into the 21st century, right? And there's quite a few innovations happening on that front as well. Elevating the B2B commerce space. So that's where we're specializing. We do have a B2C commerce business, but really specializing in B2B commerce, e-commerce, moving forward. So those would be the three industries that we're focusing on.
Gotcha. So sounds like nonprofits for sure. Healthcare, manufacturing. Within those, do they have to have like a specific, technology that they're running like that? It sounds like you guys do a little bit of almost digital transformation. So is there like any key indicators for what makes for like a good fit within those specific industries?
Yeah, absolutely. So particularly with the associations, they tend to be more, budget sensitive. So the kind of products that we generate for our clients are really in two categories. I'll step back for a second. One is in content management systems where it's off the shelf and we build the website, and tweak it, refine it. But there's also custom software, right, where we build the site entirely from scratch. That tends to apply to what I would call web applications. So not really, front facing to customers, but rather, into the guts of a business. So a client might come to us and they need something that connects, an e-commerce shop or something to connect to their factories, right? Very much inside the business itself. So, in the case of that CMS, the website, traditional website build, we focus on this technology. Drupal, WordPress is also, something that we also do. On the custom software, we focus on this technology called Symphony, where we are a partner, actually, an exclusive partner in North America to the builders of Symphony called Sensia Labs out of Paris. So, those are sort of the areas that we specialize in.
Gotcha. That's helpful to understand. So what would you think is like the secret sauce? Like, you tell me, like, why do customers, choose you over, the competition? Because there's a ton of, design shops out there. I don't want to put you guys into a design shop at all, but just as a broad strokes term, like what would you say is like, hey, like this is why customers and nonprofits, healthcare, manufacturing are going with Unleashed? What is that secret sauce that you guys provide? I assume it's going to have to be with potentially some of that strategic advice, for digital, mobile, and web, right? Like, so tell me, I guess, a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's strategy. I mean, we started out as a firm 15 years ago, small shop that was focused on development. So in a way, we were like order takers, coders, a vendor, right? Yeah. In that course of time, we have evolved into being a strategic partner, right? Into being a thought leader, And it's actually sort of reflected in kind of three ways in our business. As I mentioned, one way is vendor order taker strategic partner, right? So we're in the C-suite. We're no longer talking to, members of just the marketing team, or even the technical team, kind of siloed information technology team, siloed like that. We're, moving, ourselves to becoming a thought leader partner.
Yeah.
So we have some partnerships right now with some key players. As I mentioned, Sensio Labs, we have another cloud partner as well. But we're also leveraging this movement of our developers to not just be developers, but engineers, which is actually a very key distinction, right? Like engineers aren't just coders, but they're also owning the code. They're owning the DevOps. They're owning the client relationship too. So there's sort of like a kind of a spectrum there, right? Not, and so the technical people are very much engrossed and engaged in making sure it aligns with the overall strategy of the client.
So how does that strategy process start? Where like what it sounds like there's a lot of different ways and branches that can come from an initial conversation potentially, or what brings them to the door. So how does that strategy process start to get them going?
Yeah, oftentimes it can be client generated, right? We have a manufacturing client right now that is building out a distributor portal. They're a manufacturer basically, and so they're really enhancing they're asking us to basically enhance their B2B e-commerce platform, and so they're asking us to build a self-service distributor portal for their clients who are their distributors. And self-service is like a really big trend right now in the manufacturing space. And so, that's a client-generated concept. They've heard about self-service. What does that mean? And we fill in the details, right? Well, it means that you have a kind of a receipt of statement kind of site. You have a ability to change payment terms, right? Option on the distributor portal, right? So that's a mix of client inducement, but also our expertise in the space, providing that feedback and that color, right? There's also opportunities where we can do feasibility studies. So for instance, we have another existing client, they don't know anything about e-commerce. They have a Drupal 7, which is basically an older version of Drupal, kind of website, content management site, basically. And, it's like a Sears catalog, essentially, right? It's not an e-commerce site. So they've asked us to, do a feasibility study, 3 to 5 days, to kind of assess, be the sort of, we have our preferences, obviously, in terms of what kind of platform we want to build for them, but they trust us enough to give them sort of unbiased advice. So if we decide, if we find in our research and in our diligence that, our technologies are not suitable for them, we're happy to say that. So we can be that sort of trusted partner, right? And a lot of our clients, view us as that, right? In terms of how they want to move ahead in terms of their strategic roadmap, with their technologies.
Mm-hmm. I heard you say distributor portal. What is that? How do people find that? Just kind of curious.
Yeah, distributor portal. So a distributor portal it's a term that's heavily used in the manufacturing B2B commerce space. And it means essentially a lot of manufacturing clients, they don't have, it's not like B2C e-commerce where, basically the world's your oyster. Anybody can come and buy stuff. In the B2B commerce space, the buyer sort of universe is quite small. It's oftentimes distributors that you already have agreements with, right? And so a manufacturing company as part of a self-service strategy would build a distributor portal, a portal specifically designed for these customers that they've worked with for long stretches of time, right? And oftentimes, they started working with them, through fax machines and Excel spreadsheets, right? And so this distributor portal then sort of takes a lot of that fax machine stuff out of the way, right? Takes a lot of the Excel stuff out of the way and centralizes all those services for that distributor, right?
Gotcha.
Or the number of services.
And that's what you're building, right? That's not something that's something you would build for these manufacturers, correct?
We would build for them these portals, absolutely, as part of the B2B e-commerce strategy and execution.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So the reason why I asked that is was kind of thinking about, okay, your secret sauce sounds like your strategic partnerships are big, kind of your best in class, like, these, we work hand in hand with these best in class companies. I love that. You guys definitely need to have that in place. And also sounds like your approach during discovery is to be that trusted partner, like letting them know exactly what you can and can't do too, which is also really helpful. revenue is obviously a big topic that, every company needs to have discussions about and challenges to overcome. And one of the things that kind of comes to mind now is, I can go online potentially and start leveraging a tool maybe like a ChatGPT or OpenAI to like help in creating, my own website or tool or application myself. Do you guys see that as like a big challenge that you guys are facing right now as a business?
Yeah, I mean, in a number of ways, but opportunities too. ChatGPT, is revolutionizing websites, right? And will continue to do so. In the case of our content management systems platforms that we specialize in, like Drupal, for instance, we already have evidence of new modules, like a ChatGPT add-on module, right, to the Drupal space. So, for instance, if somebody has a Drupal website, a non-technical user, at a client, organization, or a nonprofit or company, and they want to change content on it, there's a new module that it basically creates a field. As they're managing they're editing their content, they can ask that little field, hey, build me 3 paragraphs on this topic, right, on cars in the 1950s, something like that, and it'll generate that, right? And so, then that person can transpose, copy paste those set of paragraphs, into the content, right? That literally saves them a ton of time. So now the question, of course, is, can that content be validated, right? Is that accurate content? Of course, we rely on the non-technical user to because they're presumably the expert, right? But, I think that's the next step in the ChatGPT revolution is, can we validate that content? Is that content, best in class? Does it really answer the question for, folks on the website that are looking for information? So I think that's the next step. And I suspect that algorithm will also evolve. The AI will also evolve to sort of, take that into consideration, right? Based on the viewers that, based on the folks that visit the website, as an example. So yeah, content is critical. Content is king. And I think, even beyond sort of content validation, for developers and engineers that we have, there's a lot of talk that ChatGPT will actually make their lives better and faster, like in their coding, right? A lot of the AI would be able to find best ways. Oftentimes we get into challenges, and I know this is true for any client that's dealt with an agency, right? Clients are always cost conscious, right? Which means they're billable hour conscious, because we operate like other agencies on a billable hour basis. I actually think that, ChatGPT will empower developers to be much more efficient and to then hence be able to pass on savings to their clients. So I think in that way, it's quite powerful because it'll save time, and then it'll focus, I think, the efforts of engineers on really enhancing, because there's a lot to do. Software often needs to be upgraded periodically, right? Because of security patching and security needs and whatever, and a lot of other things. And so those sort of what I would call routine upgrades will then be done automatically without a developer. So none of the engineer's time will be spent on that. It'll really be spent on focusing on how to generate revenue, how to focus, on enhancements that help a client's bottom line. As opposed to the periodic stuff, the routine stuff that engineers have to do today. So I think that's the other way that ChatGPT will help, with clients and other forms of AI, I should say.
I definitely think AI can help enable experimentation for sure. Make it easy to like test different variations or formats or looking at different topics that could be addressed. AI can help with that definitely from a marketing perspective, but I can only imagine what it can do from a development perspective. And so, yeah, like give me a couple like ideas of, how technology like ChatGPT might be impacting, your industry. I know you mentioned helping make developers maybe more efficient, saving time, spending time on more higher level priority things for your customers. So what are some other ways you think this technology can impact the industry?
Yeah, I think, you could almost you could almost convert, what I was saying earlier in terms of generating content paragraphs, right? For a non-technical user, right, and saving them time. I think original ideation will be transformed here because AI will have, ChatGPT or other forms will be able to sort of access large amounts of data and provide, a suite of options, right? Just ideation at the most original level, right? And I think that'll be really powerful. That'll help our strategy practice, frankly,
Yeah.
and to think about like, you know, and oftentimes, when search engines today can be very rudimentary, right? Like they're only responding to you to the question you're asking them, and it can be very granular. But I think AI's advantage potentially will also be the ability to step back, like think like a human, think more strategically, and that'll be helpful, I think, for our digital strategy practice immensely. In terms of the other way I would think about it is because we are branching our business into custom software. Custom software, is in our instance, in our case, is building out really complex business applications, right? Yes, there's the advantage of saving a ton of time, right, with millions of lines of code through ChatGPT, as we just discussed. But there's also ways to, a lot of what we do in business applications in the guts of a business is integration. And, can we minimize, and simplify a lot of those integrations, moving forward? I think that's the other key advantage, perhaps, with our custom software business. Can this make it much more efficient, not just in terms of engineering, but in terms of the information architecture, for our clients?
So is that how you're thinking about planning to grow the business, is on the custom software side?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one way. I think custom software, I think when one of the months in the fourth quarter was already almost a quarter of our revenue, actually. So we that's one avenue of growth for sure. I think we love the CMS space, though, the content management system space, because there's so many of our clients who rely on something that's off the shelf and that's very easy, and it also meets a lot of folks' fiscal needs as well, right? Like, with custom software, it can be quite expensive. Only a certain type of client, enterprise client, can really, invest in that kind of platform. So for us, yes, absolutely, we want to move into custom software because we also want to, address a lot of our clients who are increasingly enterprise. But we also recognize our roots as well, right? Our roots are in the association space, and they leverage a lot of content management systems like Drupal, like WordPress. So that continues to be a growth area as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. What do you think is something you want to like celebrate a year from now as you plan to grow and scale potentially, the enterprise side of the custom software, and as you focus on the CMS space continuously? Like, what is something that you guys are looking to celebrate as an organization a year from now?
Yeah, I think it's so hard to answer that question, but I would say it's so hard to find a metric, right? In particular, like a specific metric. And I'm a metrics guy at the end of the day as well. But I think conceptually, moving from thought leaders, which is I think where we are now, thought leaders, partners, to innovators, execute, right? That's the other thing. I think I want our clients to be able to see us. I want ourselves, our own team members, to be able to see us as innovators who execute. It's one thing to sort of innovate and sort of conceptually like, oh, it's great that ChatGPT is coming along. It's fantastic. But are we producing solutions for our clients that are executable, that are executed, right? These innovations are really transformational, and we must have the capability to be able to put them into practice. And so that would be, I think, one metric, one sort of conceptual goal that I'd like to see ourselves be able to accomplish in a year's time.
So how are you going to be that innovator? What is the metric there? Like, how do you measure that?
Yeah, I mean, tough question. I think part of it is, seeing whether a good example might be, the ChatGPT module for Drupal. Is that going to generate a lot more revenue for us? Are clients, going to be asking to implement that particular module, on the website? Will that represent, let's say, 10, 15% of our revenue, in a year's time? That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is, as it relates to our custom software application side, are our clients going to ask us specifically for AI tools that are customized to their needs? The ChatGPT module on the Drupal side is more sort of, more off the shelf, right? We'll tweak it, but are they going to ask us for custom software, start from scratch type projects, right? That's another key metric, I think, to look at.
Gotcha. Are you seeing a lot of those conversations happening already? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think Yeah, we're certainly more so on the CMS side because those modules are being built now and being experimented by the Drupal open source community. Um, but certainly even at the custom software side, we're being there are inquiries, I would say, not specific asks for projects, because I think a lot of clients are still struggling to understand how this fits into their business model. That's the thing, right? Right now it's so disruptive that clients are trying to understand how does this really fit with their bottom line objectives,
Yeah.
right? And so, and we're helping. I think the key thing is, can we get those strategy discussions, which is where we specialize, which is our strong point, to a point where we can build something for them, that makes sense, with their business model.
It's funny, like even on the sales side of things and seeing how to use a tool like ChatGPT just to like build like a sales funnel or to build like a grading for opportunities. It can just provide like insight like that. Okay, it confirms what I was thinking about how to build this out. It confirms, okay, this is like exactly what I was thinking. Okay, good. This is what we need to institute, and that way we can ensure that we're our funnels and forecasting are appropriately. So like there's so many different ways that like I feel like you can apply something like a chat GPT into a business model. So it's interesting to see like how you guys are thinking about it on your side as well.
Yeah, I think, I said earlier something about, content, it can generate the content, but is it, impactful from a bottom line standpoint? I think that's the next
Right.
wave of AI. I think to your point, right? Often, AI will hit a point at which it will validate your theories, right? It's sort of reverse of it, right? The vice versa effect of it, right? And that's the point at which it will be, I think, quite powerful, because it can access such massive historical data sets, that those data sets then can either validate or confirm, your hypothesis about a certain, change in your business model or something, right? And that's compelling. We're not quite there yet, but everybody sees the potential, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's just a matter of time. And I think, I think that changed the introduction of AI. I don't think even a year ago people suspected something, but I don't think people saw the tremendous potential, And so we are now at the cusp of something quite transformational, I think. And we're very excited about it. I think this is gonna, it's gonna really, post-pandemic, I mean, this is gonna be potentially the next wave, of evolution in websites.
Yeah. Agreed, for sure. Very excited about it, and have to be talking about it in conversations. It's a must. If you're not talking about it, you're going to get left behind. I feel like even in our space too, is in the content development world too. So as we wrap things up here, Mohammed, is there anything else that you'd like to share, or anything you think our listeners need to know about you or the company that we haven't covered yet?
No, I don't think so. I think just that last point around ChatGPT and AI, I think it doesn't mean that, humans are no longer in charge. It actually, I think, implies that there's more responsibility actually on our part,
Yeah.
to use the data that AI gives us and be thoughtful and more and effective in our strategies, moving forward. So I don't, it's not a it's a means to an end, right? And that end is better strategy, better work for our clients. That's how I view it.
Same. Yep. Well, where can people find you, Mohammed? Like, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you and with Unleashed Technologies?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at the linkedin.com, /in/mhutasahud. We can also, find us on LinkedIn as well with the Unleashed website, linkedin.com/company/Unleashed Digital. Also our website, candidly, at www.unleashed-technologies.com.
Cool.
And so those are three places to find myself and our company.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll make sure to drop the links in the description as well for everyone to find. And any events, conferences, travel, places you're going to be, webinars, anything like that coming up for you where people can potentially meet face to face with you?
Yeah, so a lot of our technologies are open source communities, so they have annual conferences, and so our upcoming DrupalCon conference, June 5th to the 8th, I will be there. And if anybody wants to kind of meet me in Pittsburgh, by the way, this year, it's an annual event. Happy to meet and convene. That's one. There's another conference. The other technology that we focus on is Symphony, and that'll be later in the year, in early December. That's actually in Europe because it's a primarily European-based technology in Brussels. That's SymphonyCon as well. So those would be the two main conferences that I would be attending and our company would be attending.
Love it. Any booths or speaking arrangements at DrupalCon?
Yes, I think we'll be actually speaking on healthcare at a panel discussion, if I'm not mistaken, with our cloud partner. So that's just being planned in the works right now. But I think that's one opportunity we'll be sharing our thought leadership.
I love it. That's great. Well, hopefully everyone who's listening and all your followers who love you and appreciate you and the work you guys do for them at Unleashed will be there and can hear you speak and talk about the healthcare space and everything you guys have got going on there. So that's really exciting.
No, it's very exciting. Thank you for this opportunity today. Really appreciate the conversation. Look forward to kind of just pushing on here at Unleashed.
You bet. Yeah, I appreciate your time too, Mohammed. I definitely enjoy the conversation. I feel like I've learned a lot about you and Unleashed, and definitely appreciate you being here, part of the Business Ninjas podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you, Max.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Everyone have a great rest of the day, and thanks for listening. Take care.